Have you ever experienced something so crippling in your life that has made you feel broken? I have. Are you someone who has a giving heart but is struggling to feel good themselves? Are you consistently putting your needs aside to take care of everyone else? If so, you're not alone. Giving starts with giving to yourself so that you are able to give of yourself to other people. Isn't it time you took back control and discovered what makes you tick? Join me in my journey and find out how you can feel better about yourself, live your best life, and share that with others. Thinking of yourself, it doesn't make you selfish. It makes you brave. I'm Nelia, and this is the Giving Starts With You podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Giving Starts With You podcast. I'm so happy that you have joined us again for another episode. Today we have a very special new friend to me. Her name is Althea Burke. And Althea is a Bible teacher, a developer of the S.A.M.E Thing Method, owner and TCM Mastery Coach at Day Defined Health and Life Coaching. Althea believes that true fulfillment in life is a result of completely understanding, accepting, and befriending oneself. I think this is beautiful. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing so well, Nelia. Thank you so much for having me on your show. It's such a gift. It truly is a gift to me to be able to have this dialogue with you today.
Oh, you're so sweet. I'm so happy to, for lack of a better word, to have connected with you. So I feel gifted actually. I love that you're here, and I think our audience is going to love it as well. So thank you for joining us today. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about the importance of finding yourself before settling down, which I'm very interested in. Some reparenting, the concept of managing oneself, and of course, understanding your identity in Christ as the foundation to fulfillment in life. So, this is beautiful. So, yeah, it's a lot to talk about. But first of all, can you tell us where you're at, a little bit about who you are?
Absolutely. So thank you for that introduction. I am a fellow Canuck. I'm living
Woohoo!
in I'm living in the Midwest right now. It's marriage that brought me stateside several years ago. So living in the States, there are a lot of differences, um, and between cultures and ways of thinking and doing. And I had a lot of time, after getting married, to myself, and taking a deeper look at myself, holding up that proverbial mirror. I thought that there are some areas that I would like to explore. And of course, like a lot of people, there was like that one or two, what do you call them, catalytic type moments that set the ball in motion. So um, for me, one of those moments was going to this networking event. I was like so excited to break out of my house, this one afternoon. And I was getting all dressed up for my first networking event since becoming a certified life coach. And, in my mind, I was going to network and meet a whole bunch of new entrepreneurs. They're going to be my best friends, and I make all these clients, and it's going to be fabulous. Right. And the evening, it was going really well until it just like sucked.
Oh no.
Uh, I asked this headliner, the headline speaker, um, if she thought I should get a master's degree, because I kept experiencing this deep dissatisfaction in my life, no matter the credentials or experiences that I attained. And she retorted, "You don't need a master's degree to coach. You've got an inner issue, it sounds like." And I was like,
Oh,
oh my gosh, inner issue, right? And this is in front of a room of like 20, 30 people.
oh, this wasn't even a
And I just,
private conversation.
this
Oh,
was in the middle of the Q&A,
wow.
right? Eyes went fuzzy from embarrassment, and I just plopped down in my seat and I was like, I wonder if everyone in the room can tell that these feelings of worthlessness started way before this one event. And so that moment got me searching for, how do I feel satisfied and fulfilled in my life, no matter what stage I'm at? And how do I love myself and accept my past, my present, where I'm going, so that when someone decides to tell me that I have an inner issue, it won't rock my entire world.
Wow, I love that, because it's true. We all we value, like, we give ourselves value on our accomplishments, right? Or what the world thinks we need to do. Like I didn't go to university either. Um
Mhm.
I didn't even go to community college. I went to a specific music program school. But I don't have that formal training. And you're right. Like, you do judge yourself on those things, but we have to learn not to identify ourselves by what other people's standards are for themselves. Like, I can imagine all those, like that moment for you. Wow, that's tough. But you know what? I think rather than judging you, the other people in the room perhaps were like feeling bad for you because they probably all felt the same way. They'll probably, like, what is this woman doing? Like, oh my God, this is not just her. Like,
Yeah,
this is the whole group here.
yeah.
Wow, I'm sorry that you had to go through that. That's not pleasant.
It wasn't a pleasant experience, but I I don't regret it, and I'm only
Yes.
able to share this story now because my life has is completely different. And when I'm faced with someone telling me now, um, what I should and shouldn't be doing, I can hold space for them, you know, because a lot of the time the shoulds that our parents, our spouses, our close friends impose on us are typically things that are unfulfilled in their own lives. And this is not a
Yes.
judgment, this is not a blame, but it's simply an observation. And I'm able to say, oh, is that what you would have done? Is that what you would like to do? Because I'm happy, you know, with where I'm at.
Do you feel like it also teaches you what their limitations are? Like, you can, not that you're going to judge them for it, but it really does tell you a lot about somebody. And maybe that's somebody that you still want to be close to, but is not going to be your go to for decisions. Or because we all have different opinions, we all have different ways that we live our life, right? But I love what you're saying because a couple of years ago too, I came to the realization that it's not so much we don't care what other people think, because that's not really correct, but it's more that I need to love myself enough to create my own life. As long as I can go to bed at night, look myself in the mirror and say, hey, I'm okay. I'm okay with the decisions I made. I value myself despite not having this, despite not having that. And I think that's beautiful because I don't think a lot of people do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And a lot of many people don't do that, and especially women.
Hmm.
You know,
It's true.
we are famous for um, seeking others' opinions and others' approvals. And that's part and parcel to that our feminine energy, right? The feminine energy, it's an energy that is um, it's a receptive energy. We receive, right? And when we get into this imbalanced um, energetic space of being too much in that feminine space, we can become dictated and controlled by what other people um, think we ought to be doing with our lives. But when I developed the S.A.M.E Thing Method, I developed it so that I was able to stay my course, because I would feel a deep anxiety between when my mom would tell me she wanted me to get my master's degree, or my husband um, wanting something in the house a certain way, but my heart's desire was inclined in a different direction. There would always be this huge kind of upheaval. Like it would exhaust me. It would take a lot of energy and mental space. Like, oh my gosh, should I? Do I want to do this? What if I don't? Will they be mad at me? This
Yes.
internal voice. So when I created the S.A.M.E Thing Method, like the first step was speaking truth, God's truth over myself, and being anchored in that, and being anchored in the fact that I am very bold, I am wise, I can have all the answers in any given moment, because those are his promises to me. And that allowed me to not get so derailed and thrown about all the time, because I tell you, 2-3 years ago, I would go to bed feeling one way and wake up heading in another direction because of what someone had said to me. And I wasn't sure in my own desires.
Yeah, no, I think that's, it's important to take in what people say, but not to put so much emphasis on it that we change how we feel based on what they're saying. Nobody has the right to change our identity. And we're all just trying to find out, what are the best parts of ourselves? What are the parts we want to change? But that ultimately should be up to us. So when you said that, and it's like a battle between, making other people happy and making ourselves happy, it is hard. It is hard. Definitely. So do you want to tell us a
It's
little? Yeah.
it's a dance.
Yep. It's a fine balance because how do I, yeah, it's just a fine balance because you do want to honor other people's opinions.
Mhm.
And you do want, like you said, with your husband, for example, um, you know what feels right for you, but you also want to honor their, what they believe as well, right? So it is
Right.
tough. It is tough. It's a give and take all the time.
And I can't remember the doctor's name right now, but um, I remember learning about this proprietary kind of 3-step boundaries process. And um, what you're describing of this kind of fluidity and this flexibility is like the final stages of holding boundaries, right? You're able to um, honor what the other person's saying, honor their individuality, but also honor your needs and your truth. In the beginning, it might look and might feel to others a bit rigid and a bit off-putting, because you're just learning to flex those muscles and learning to say no and learning to, voice your opinion. So it's not going to be, this, oh, I hear what you're saying. Absolutely. And thank you so much for, showing that you care, about what I've got to say. But I think I'm good. I think I'm good with what I'm doing. In the beginning, it's like, no, I don't want to.
Yeah, it's like backlash, it can come across so different until that person says, hey, that's working for her. I want to learn that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
True, right? Like,
Yeah.
um, yeah, sometimes women are perceived very negatively when all they're trying to do is be firm and confident. Like there's nothing wrong with being confident in who you are and being firm about what you believe in. But it does come across in a very negative way sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit more about your method and what it means? What they stand for?
Absolutely. So the S.A.M.E Thing Method I'm in love with the name of that because I wanted my process to be both instructive and helpful. And in my own journey to befriending myself and standing in my truth and maintaining firm boundaries, I felt really overwhelmed with the amount of options that were available in the world of, self-care or in the name of self-development. And I couldn't figure out which tools really worked well for me. So the S.A.M.E Thing Method are 4 different um, self-soothing, self-help modalities. So the first is self-talk. The acronym, so first, let me back up, sorry. The acronym stands for SPEAK, Attend, Mesmeric Movement, and Effect. Okay, so the S, Speak, A, Attend, M, Mesmeric Movement, and E, Effect. So speaking contains 2 components. The first is self-talk, and the other is divine conversation, which I alluded to a little bit earlier. Understanding who you are in the kingdom, in God's view, right? And the only way to understand how he sees you is to have a conversation with him. And your audience, the audiences are just filled with all kinds of people, but the first question I get is, well, I'm not a believer, I don't believe in God. And it's simply not true that God only speaks to people who want to speak to him, right? We all have a conscience. It's that little voice, that little whispering voice in those moments where you're like, don't do that, or go and help that person, see what they need, just be quiet in this moment, right? And then once you start talking back to that little voice, then now we're getting into that divine
I
conversation
love that
area.
explanation.
Yeah. So that's how that works. And then you also need to get into the word. You need to get into God's truth. You need to understand who he is and who you are in relation to him, and to have a really deep divine conversation. And then positive self-talk, I mean, that's like the number one method for emotional nurturance and to rewire your thoughts. Okay. And this has been absolutely vital. Changing my self-talk from negative to more positive tones has been absolutely vital in allowing me to breathe through uncomfortable moments where I feel that another person's will or desire for my life is greater than my own, and I feel a little bit drowned out, and I have to just, my thoughts are, just breathe, stay calm, you're safe, you're okay, it's just their opinion, you're not going to die, I promise you, right?
I love that. And stop playing those tapes in your mind of the stories you tell yourself, right?
I don't know, I could cry about how impactful rewiring this voice has been. And I think a lot of my clients experience the same thing. When you're able to champion, when you're able to champion and support yourself.
It's so much growth there. There's just the possibilities are become endless, right? The amount of happiness that you allow into your life when you can do that, it's like a completely different place. And I love that you're showing people how to do that. I believe in that so much.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what gets me up. This is what wakes me up in the morning. And I love my father. I love my brother. I love my husband. I love the men in my life. But my heart is especially opened to women because women's work is never ending, and they're so brave and they're fearless many times, and they go and do the things that no one wants to do, and they do a lot of work that doesn't get appreciated or acknowledged. And when you have all of these heavy voices that in turn turn into heavy emotions and bog down the body, I just want to tell my woman folk, like, you are so loved, you are so powerful, you are so amazing, right? And let's get these thoughts in line with what you're doing, with your magnificent.
Yeah, it's like it's not enough that other people can see. You need to know it. You need to see it in within yourself. You know, naturally we're most of us anyway are so nurturing and giving that we forget. We forget that, you know, there's going to be burnout, and there's going to be just our whole bodies like is diseases, all kinds of things. When you don't take care of yourself,
Mhm.
all the nurturing comes to a halt. Like you're not able to do all the things that you're meant to do.
Yeah. When I'm working with clients one-on-one, I think some of the hardest stories for me to hear, and I mean, this is I'm sharing it because it's such a common one, especially with the professional and ambitious woman. Um, and I'm sure you've had this experience of, I know I've had this experience of, you can do 15 things in a day, and then you rest your head on the pillow and you remember that 16th thing that you didn't get done, and you're like, oh man, I'm such a failure. Like, let me just get up. Should I get up and go and do this thing right now? And it's as if you didn't knock it out of the park this whole day because that one little thing is stealing your joy.
But then when you've done the 16th thing, there's another thing.
That's it, right?
Like there will never, it's just like this, you know, there will never be a right time. There'll never be a right time to get married, a right time to have kids, a right time to start your business, to do this, to do that. Yeah, I just have to create it. You have to create it as part of who you are, and how you spend your time. And we have so many choices. We just have to know what's best to choose for us, and why. Like, if you can just show someone the difference between, like even in your story, before and after, and all the things that you've accomplished since your mindset has changed, since you've stopped telling yourself these negative things, just that, if people could just have a sense of what that feels like, the before and after, people would be all over it. You know, it's
Mhm,
just a beautiful feeling,
mhm.
compared to how it is beforehand. And at the beginning stages, you don't really know that, you know, something's not right. You know, you're not feeling great, you know, but you don't
Yeah,
know what it is, and you don't know how to attain it, and you don't know how to reach that. So I think it's really special what you're doing, because you're putting a light on something that not only is important, but perhaps people aren't aware of. This is a thing. We can actually do this. I can give myself permission to, you know, to love myself more, to have my own thoughts, to do all these things, right?
yeah,
So that's the first thing, is you almost have to convince people that this is a thing, like this is possible, and then go through all the steps of this is how you do it, right? Some
true.
people don't feel worthy.
Some people don't feel worthy, and I mean, I definitely, like I shared in my story, I had, I was plagued by feelings of worthlessness, but once I changed um, my self-talk, once I stopped eating at everyone's table, as my spiritual mother
I
says,
love that.
don't eat at everyone's table, meaning don't absorb or internalize or personalize everyone's opinions and comments, right? Then I was able to create for myself my own measure of success. And I was able to see when I've reached that level, or when I knew, or be able to kind of distinguish between, like, okay, let me go a little bit harder, let me finish this, or let me slow down and stop. Enough is enough. But the woman that I work with, I don't convince them. I'm not in the business of convincing. I work with women who, like you said, like they're like, how do I have all of this success? How am I running a business? How am I keeping my house together? How is my child happy? How am I working, 120 hours a week, doing all these amazing things, yet I'm not satisfied in my life? Like this, something's wrong. Something's wrong, and I know there's a better way of living, and that is what pushes them to look further.
Yeah, and that and what you decide for yourself can be ever changing. It's not like you decide one thing, people grow all the time. So that is you can change that and you can grow with different things. It's not like, okay, this is what I think, and the boundaries. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like it's something that can evolve over time and can also,
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be so rigid, right?
right. And you have to have a starting place, right? You can't, it's not, you can't, it's challenging to shoot for this big overarching goal, because you'll get lost in the minutia, in the small details, right? So let's deal with what's in front of you right now, right? So is it your relationship with your coworkers, relationship with your spouse, relationship with self? What's the actual issue there? Okay, cool. So you dealt with that. You're feeling like stable. Now let's go to the next thing, right? Because how we do one thing is how we do everything. So we have to kind of tweak as we go along. But I know a lot of ambitious women are like, give me the big picture. I'm gonna just tear it up. And it's like you are gonna get overwhelmed, and then you're gonna sit down. You need to give yourself those little wins, those little
Yes.
micro moments of like, yes, I did it. That felt good. Okay, let me do it again. But if we like take on the world, we're like, oh.
I know we want to see the end result, right? We just want to get there. But you know what? I was reminded by one of my podcast guests that even a small step is still a step forward, right?
Yes, Nelia,
So,
yes.
and I always say this, but I think it was Sean Coe, who was one of my guests, that was saying it's impossible to take a step forward and a step back at the same time.
You're only moving forward. Yes.
And if you do move back, it's okay. Just keep going.
Hmm.
Take one step at a time. And it's the small steps, right?
Yeah. And I'm here like drawing, moving my hand. That is the process of recovery. It's not linear, right? It's not linear at all, especially for individuals that are used to avoiding and used to numbing. That is a lot of people,
Which I did
right?
for a
Right?
long time. Suppression was my thing. You think it's a protector, and it's completely the opposite. So I do not recommend holding things in. I do not recommend, you know, keeping things private. Like it's just and I think of it as a ladder, the small the rungs on the ladder.
Hmm.
The more steps you have, the closer the distance, right? The more
Hmm.
more milestones you hit as you're going up. And the view from the top of that ladder is just beautiful.
Yeah.
You never really reach like that destination because you're always trying to grow and life learn and all these things. But how you feel about yourself changes so much in a positive way.
Hmm. Right. And I wonder, I've been kind of mulling this thought over the past couple of days. And I wonder how our lives would change if we could declare, I am perfect. I am complete. I am whole.
Yeah, I'm imperfectly perfect.
Right. Or not like, no, just straight up, I'm
Just
perfect.
perfect.
I am perfect. It doesn't close us off to being teachable or to learning or to growing. But this, what I'm going to say is kind of controversial. But it's on a lot of people's minds. It's like the self-help, self-developed industry. How is it a multi-billion-dollar industry? Are we really getting the answers that we're seeking? Right? If the carrot keeps moving, and the carrot being, I found myself, I love myself, I'm good, I don't need anything else. If that keeps moving, how will we ever be able to declare I'm whole? And that's kind of one of the things that I love about God's word, is that he says, like, when Jesus died, um, and when Jesus was resurrected, and like all of our imperfection died when Jesus died. All we're supposed to be doing right now is just figuring out what our calling is, what our purpose is, and make sure that we don't pass away with any of those talents hidden within us. Give it all away. Give of yourself. Give all your talents, all your resources, all your creativity. Give it all away from a perfect space. Not this. I mean, that's why we have the Holy Spirit. That's why we have the conscience, because we are holy and righteous.
We have everything we need, I believe, from the minute we are born to be able to enrich other people, enrich our own lives. We just have to pay attention. I think the answers are all there. We have to listen, you know? There's so much noise everywhere. I think we just need to get in tune with what's important. And it might be a little bit different for everybody, you know? But I think the underlying message is always the same.
Which is,
That you're enough, that
yeah,
you don't need to be any different than when you were born to be. That I do feel like I feel like even though we grow and we change and we adapt, that our core is always there, whether we choose to use it or not, or use it for good or use it for evil. Who we are is already created, I believe, when we begin our life.
yeah, yeah. And we have all these experiences, right, that are like these extra layers that can kind of darken or dampen or cloud our core. And so all we're really doing is just like peeling back those layers. Just peel it back. That's what all these things are for. Just peel it back. Just discover who you are again.
Yeah, and
Right?
when you do, yeah, it's just like this feeling of just like alignment, you know? It's just like, oh my God, this is where I feel most comfortable, is just being me, doing this. And we forget
Mhm.
because, you know, we go from being children and not having judgment and just playing with and doing things that make us happy at the moment. We don't have to think, oh, I need to be happy right now. What is it that I'm going to do? We just know,
Yeah.
and then we become adults, and then we have to get jobs and we have responsibilities and all that, and we forget all the things we love. We forget what makes us happy. We forget, just because of our needs, you know, we forget what it is that, like, our financial needs and our responsibilities to society and to each other, and our roles, you know, as mothers and business owners and daughters and wives and all of these things that are expected of us, that we forget. I think if we were more like what we were like before all those responsibilities came, we would all already be our authentic selves, you know?
Mhm.
But that's not the way it works, unfortunately. So you're right. Like, I love what you said, because experiences change us, you know? Yeah.
And it's not, and again, like there's no blame. There's no, there doesn't need to be this element of self-pity, like, oh, all these things changed me. But however, I will say, like, all of the experiences, all of the emotions that we have, they're all adaptive. They're all for a reason.
Yes.
right? So it's not something that we need to shun or run away from or feel guilty about. It's simply, let me get curious. Like, what is this emotion trying to teach me?
Yeah, just being aware is a lot.
Hmm.
I agree.
Which is, yeah. So what? So I asked kind of a um, rhetorical question, but I actually want to pose it. So what do you think would change in your life if you were to just say, I am perfect, I am whole, I am complete? Like,
I would wake up without limits.
mm,
Feel, um, I don't know, it's just this feeling of alignment. Like I would just, it kind of feel like heaven on earth to me because I feel like there'd be no limits, there would be no boundaries. I could conquer the world, you know. I could be the best that I could be for myself and for the people around me. I could change the world.
yeah. Do you feel like a pressure when you say that?
A pressure? No, I think
Yeah.
that if, no, I think the opposite. It's freeing
Mhm. Okay.
for me. But what about for you? How would it make you feel?
Yeah, I'm going to ask more people this question, and I'm like, I want feedback. It's like, especially for women, like, I feel like we're taught to be humble, be reserved, and to just come out and boldly proclaim, listen, I'm perfect. I'm complete. That just goes against so many scripts. People are just baffled. Being like, what are you talking about? Look at this cocky woman. Who does she think she is? Right? So, I mean, in the beginning, I mean, I'm still mulling it over. I mean, not too long ago, I felt it difficult to just say that I did a really amazing job, because I didn't know what admitting that I did an amazing job meant, or what it would do, if it would bring some kind of evil eyes on me, if it would, if everything would fall down and collapse after
But
saying I did
rather
an
than,
amazing job.
yes, but rather than thinking how somebody would accept it, how did it make you feel when you said it or when you felt it?
It was true. I did an amazing job,
And it makes you more confident that you can do it again.
right? And you want more.
So it's okay that people reject that. Like that's how I feel. It's okay. It didn't used to be okay for me when I wasn't as secure who I am.
Hmm.
So I'm a very feeling person. So my emotions are like on my face. I wear my emotions on my sleeve, you know? And a lot of times I used to be made fun of because of that. You just think too much, you feel too much. And now it's what I celebrate because I understand it. So I celebrate my heart now. Whereas before it was looked upon as, okay, you can't show that emotion because it's just all you're showing is emotion. People are, you're scaring people away. And so I think there comes a time where we do need to not listen to what other people are telling us. And if that made you feel good in saying that, then you should say it again, say it louder, you know, and they'll catch on. It's okay. They're just not there yet, right? And it's not a
Hmm.
judgment of the people around us. It's just perhaps they haven't learned what we've learned yet. And that's why we're here. We need to share that message. And I think that's what you're doing um, with your S.A.M.E method, you know, is you're sharing the message.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of the same thing method, I just, we got
Yes.
going, and I only got the S, only got the S covered.
Yes, let's
So,
continue.
so the second part of it, it actually perfectly ties into what we've been talking about, which is paying attention to how we feel in any given moment. So attending. The attend step is about paying attention to and dealing with what is. Um, and this is relevant to the coaching that I do, because many deeply dissatisfied women have a problem with emotional disconnection, especially when unpleasant emotions are activated. And when emotional disconnection is considered as this internal going offline or checking out, which is how I understand it, true fulfillment can't be reached if the person will not consciously or subconsciously remain emotionally connected or present or online, whatever you want to call it. And so in this stage, I'm promoting an inner terrain where true fulfillment can grow. And so the attend step is threefold. You develop emotions and triggers vocabulary, because you can't experience what you can't put into words at times, or it's helpful to be able to put words to your experiences. That's a better way of saying it. The second step is, being still for 90 seconds. Dr. Joan Rosenberg, in her book, The 90-Second Reset, talks about the experience, the physiological chemical reaction of emotions only lasts 90 seconds. So if you can ride that wave of heavy emotions for the 90 seconds and let it dissipate, then you can move through to your next step in soothing yourself. So, for example, a boss or a client, what can you think of an example right now? So give me, so you have, okay, between husband and wife, your husband says, why are you wearing that? That's just a vague question, right? There's no, we don't know what he's talking about. Why are you wearing that? And, you've been hooked. You're about to tell him where to go and be like, what do you mean, where am I,
Because you hear it as, why are you wearing that?
Exactly. So you sit with that for 90 seconds, let that wave of, whether it be uncomfortability, insecurity, anger, let it ride through you. Give the Holy Spirit a moment to catch up, right? And then you can respond and be like, ooh, I felt in my body a little bit uneasy about that comment. What did you mean by that? Why am I
What
wearing that?
context are you yeah.
Where'd that come from? And then you give him a moment to clarify and he can say like, well, we were going out for dinner. Why are you wearing your pajamas? It's like, oh, right. Okay. Let me go change.
Right.
Not like you're insulting my pajamas. So those are the three steps: developing the emotions and triggers vocabulary, being still for 90 seconds, riding that wave, and identifying bodily sensations. So that encapsulates the attend phase. And actually, in the gift that I want to give to your audience today, they're going to be able to do a little bit of this inner work, this attending to themselves. The Know Thyself Power Pack is done over the course of 7 days. And there are sentence completion exercises. There are probing questions to get you to notice things like, what does sacred or playful mean to you, right? Or what is like the worst date or the worst environment that you could ever be in, right? Because knowing yourself allows you to better pay attention and attend to your needs.
I love that. Thank you for offering that, by the way.
Absolutely. We're on a mission.
You're right, girl.
We're on a mission. And then let me just quickly talk about mesmeric movement and affecting. So mesmeric movement is simply engaging in activities that bolster whatever emotional state you're in. Yes, that includes anger. Why do I want to boost my anger? Because when you do calming activities before you actually deal with the anger, the internal message that you might be sending is, don't be angry. You don't need to be angry. Your anger is not important. Anger is an emotion that is telling you to hold boundaries and protect yourself. And you're going to do an exercise like calming down to say, no. In mesmeric movement, I want you to go and punch your pillow, scream, do some squats, do some air punches, let it out, be with that emotion.
I love that. Don't
They're all
suppress it.
valid. Yeah. Could you have used something like mesmeric movement? I see you
Yes,
like
because, again, it's an unwelcome feeling. So we're usually taught to, okay, that's not good. We need to like go away from that and we need to calm down. But it's like, no, because then you're suppressing. Why are you angry? You do need to deal with that first.
right. It's if you don't deal with it at the trigger source, then next thing you know, it's coming out when you're dealing with your children or with your coworker, and your husband's trying to grab a plate out of the cupboard and you're slamming the cupboard on his hand. He's like, "What the heck? What is your problem?"
Yes,
That may or not be a true story. So we definitely want to deal with that. And then the final stage of the same thing method is effect. It was originally going to be called create, but I wanted that acronym SAME. Again, because I just wanted it to be instructive. Just do this same thing. Speak truth over yourself, attend to yourself, move the heavy emotions through your body, and then effect, which means the power to produce results, right? So go create something. I think for me, one of the worst aspects of my own self-discovery and healing journey was being told to open up to all the feelings that I'd never experienced before and then just sit in them. And then I'm poo-pooing around all day. Sometimes having, true experiences of a depressive episode, like my muscles were very sore, couldn't even think to eat. All I could do is go to the bathroom and go lie down again because I was just in that space of heaviness. And so what I want to teach my women and what I want to teach your audience is it's perfectly good and it's advisable to feel what you're feeling, be with yourself, attend to your emotions. It's all valid. But let's give ourselves a stopping point. So you're angry, you're sad, okay, you felt it, you've moved through it, you've done all the good things to support yourself. Now let's put a period, right? Let's end it for this moment. You can come back to it, but like your whole mission, let's go and give. How can I go and volunteer? Maybe I can create a resource to help someone else. Maybe I can go and write a book. Maybe I want to go create a meal. Maybe I want to go and refurbish some furniture. Whatever it is, we don't want to live in that perpetual state of being under the heaviness of a particular emotion, because that's when we get into that space of our emotions guiding us like a big dog walking a child, right? And I'm
it's
only
got to
saying
be
that because I've
healthy.
been there.
Yeah,
Gotta be
definitely.
healthy. We need the balance. So that is the same thing method in a nutshell. Nelia, thank you for creating this platform. I know as a first generation, first time entrepreneur, this is like a career highlight for me. Like I'm never gonna forget this this moment right here. So thank you so much for making space for us and creating out of your own experiences and wanting to move forward. Like the ripple effect that you're doing, especially with your ukulele project and the work that you're doing in Guatemala. It's just like, anyway, I could go on and on because you're just really an amazing person to be in, to share company with. So thank you. Yes.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. If you enjoyed what you heard, please subscribe or leave a review. See you next week on the Giving Starts With You podcast.